Welcome back to Daddy DIY Grilling, y'all. My name is Keith, and I'm sure glad that you stopped by today. It's a beautiful day out here today. And what I wanted to do today is to talk to you about some frequently asked questions we get. That's right. I really appreciate all of you who engage with me down in the comments and drop your questions, your comments, and all of that. And I try to respond to each and every one of you. So what I did, I went back and looked at all our comments, and I got 3 of the most frequently asked questions that y'all asked me. And today, we're gonna go through all 3 of those. So if that sounds good to you, then let's dive in. Let's start with question number 1. Hey Keith, when should I sauce my ribs? Now, sauce ribs, what we're gonna talk about, not just saucing ribs, but let's say saucing a lot of the different proteins that you cook on the grill. When it comes to sauce, biggest tip I can give you that comes from experience is timing, right? Timing is so important because barbecue sauce contains sugar. And what you don't want to do is sauce too early. Let that sauce sit on those ribs or sit on whatever, then that sauce burns on you. Because when that sauce burns, it's going to get bitter and it's going to impact the flavor profile of your food. So what I like to do is sauce towards the end of the cook. What I'm looking for when I sauce, I want to make sure that I'm hitting my internal temperatures. I want to make sure that I've got the crust or the bark I'm looking for. And I'm going to sauce during the end. And by that time, my charcoal and my fuel has usually died down and it's a bit more stable. So I'm dealing with a more stable, cooler heat, right? Not that intense heat that we have during the beginning of the cook. So timing becomes important. Now after that, there's 2 different ways I sauce. Sometimes I put on like 1 thick layer of sauce. Then I'll give that sauce time to sit up, we call it, or get tacky, right? To sit up and wait for that. Then I'll pull it. Or what I like to do, I'll take some barbecue sauce and I'll cut it, or I'll thin it out with some like apple cider vinegar, or you can use some other type of liquid to thin it out. And then instead of putting on 1 layer, I'll put on multiple thin layers. Almost like, you know, when you're painting like a car or painting something, you don't put on 1 heavy layer, you put on multiple thin layers. And what that does is that helps you with coverage, that helps you build up the depth of the color. And I've had tremendous results doing that over the years. And another thing too, when you're saucing, mix in a little melted butter. I like doing that because it helps with the color, it helps with the sheen, and it can take the appearance yet to another level. So yeah, when you're saucing ribs or any other protein, think about timing and also think about how thick or how thin you want to put that sauce on your food. All right, y'all, let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2 is, hey Keith, how much charcoal do I need for a long cook? That's a great question. Now, when we talk about how much charcoal you need to use, I've got videos dedicated to that. So I'm gonna answer this question, but I'm not gonna get into all the detail because we got some videos and playlists dedicated to that, and I'll drop links and cards to all of that. But whenever you're talking about how much fuel you need to use, there's some fundamentals, some principles that you need to know. Number 1 is you need to know how to control temperature on a charcoal grill. That comes down to 3 things. I call it the fire balance system because you're balancing, number 1 is fuel. How much fuel to use, how to burn it, how to light it, the type of fuel. Law number 1 of the fire balance system is all fuel related, and you need to be aware of that law and understand what that is. Number 2 is air. You need to understand the role that air has, your vents have, on controlling temperature and not over relying on vents. That's something we talk about, right? Because if you mess up law number 1, law number 2 ain't gonna save you. And the third thing is food placement. How you place your food within your grill can also affect temperature. So that's the whole temperature control. Now let's go back to law number 1, which was fuel. Back to the original question. How much fuel do you need for a longer cook? Sometimes when people ask this question, I feel like they want me to give them 13 briquettes, 25 briquettes. You need 50 briquettes, right? And I just can't give you that because there are too many variables. And I wouldn't be doing you any good because that question the answer I give you may or may not help you. So I'm gonna do you one better. I'm gonna show you and teach you how to calculate it, right? I'm gonna teach you the principles you need so you don't have to ever ask anybody else that question again. You'll know how to calculate it on your own. Right, so that's what I'm trying to go over with you here. So we talked about temperature control. When it comes to how much fuel you need though for a longer cook, think about fit. Anytime you fire up the grill, the amount of charcoal you use, the amount of fuel you use has to fit your cook and fit your grill. The F stands for fire structure. Are you going direct, indirect, or two-zone? You got to go through that thought process to determine your full fuel estimate. The I is for intended temperature. Do I want to go this 250, 225? Am I going 300, 375? You got to think through that. The T stands for burn technique. Especially comes important when you're doing longer cooks like this, because when you're doing longer cooks, you don't have to burn all your charcoal at once. You don't have to burn all your fuel at once. You can use what we call structured burn techniques. The minion method, the snake method, to where you start off with a less amount of lit charcoals and you start off with more unlit charcoals, and over time those unlit charcoals are going to burn in a structured way, and that lets you sustain stable temperatures. Does that make sense? So that's the answer to your question. It's an understanding of those principles and how to implement that for your specific cook and for your specific grill. All right, so that's the answer. It might not be as easy or simple as you want it to be, right? It's gonna take some time for you to get some experience with this and figure it out. But man, if you can do it, you'll never have to ask anybody that question again, right? So I'll drop some videos, some links to some videos and some playlists for you to go look at that'll help you out. So hopefully that answered your question. Now let's get into question number 3. And man, by far, question number 3 has gotta be the most frequently asked question across Daddy DIY grilling for all of time. I get this question so much, and let's get into it. Hey Keith, why don't you use the Firebox more often when you grill? So let's get into it. So if you watch the channel, you know I will grill quite a bit on my char griller smoking champ. Now my smoking champ comes with the Firebox. Now typically if you don't have the smoking champ model and you have a char griller, the Firebox is an add-on, right? It's an additional accessory you can add. And that question does have some truth to it, right? When I grill a lot, you'll see me grill in the main chamber of the smoking champ. Now I'll go direct in the main chamber because that grill is designed to do that, right? You have some offset grills that are not designed to have your heat in the main chamber. There is no ash pan. Some of those grills are designed to where your heat is designed to come out the Firebox. You're not set up to grill inside the main chamber. That's not this grill. This grill can give you options. We can have our heat source inside the main chamber, and we can use the Firebox. So the answer to the question is there are multiple parts to it. Part number 1 is that I know a lot of you don't have a Firebox, right? May not have that accessory, so I want to use the main chamber as a way to show you that you don't need to have that accessory. It's a nice to have, but it's not a must have. That's number 1. Number 2, after using the Firebox on the smoking champ for a number of years, I've noticed that in order to get the best performance, in order to get heat from the Firebox to the main chamber, I've got to use a considerable amount of fuel in order to be able to do that. So one thing too that I've realized is that this offset is not a commercial offset, right? It's not made of the 1/4-inch steel you see in a lot of the commercial offsets, right? The thick smokers, the thick heavy-duty smokers that cost thousands of dollars, right? And just metal alone. This is at a lower price point, right? This is hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. And what you get in that difference is quality, and you get performance. Those grills are better at retaining heat. So on this grill, it takes a lot more heat for me to get from the Firebox to the main chamber, a lot more fuel, because some of that heat is going to be lost to just the outside world. So that's the reason why I just fire up in the main chamber, and I haven't had a problem with it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that food cooked in the offset using the Firebox is better than food cooked in the main chamber, because I cannot tell you that. right? I am very pleased with the quality of food that I'm able to generate on a consistent basis in the main chamber of the Smoking Champ. So that's number 2. And number 3, I think a lot of people ask, why don't you use the Firebox? As if you got a Firebox, you have to use it, as if I'm obligated to use it. Now, I know how to use a Firebox. I can use a Firebox, but my grill is a tool. That's how I look at it, right? I've got a toolbox in my garage full of tools. I know how to use my ratchet, my screwdriver. I know how to use my Allen wrenches. I know how to use my torque wrench, right? Those are tools. But I may or may not use those tools depending on what I'm working on. If it isn't the right tool for the job, I'm not going to use it. If it doesn't meet the application of what I'm doing, I'm not going to use it. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is that whatever tools you're using, don't feel obligated that you have to use all of them, right? It's okay to use whatever tool you need to fit the cook you want to do and to fit what you're trying to accomplish. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's why I typically use the main chamber of the Smoking Champ when I'm grilling. So there we have it, y'all. 3 of the most frequently asked questions on the Daddy DIY Grilling channel. I hope this video helped you out. If you need more information, again, I'll drop some cards up above and drop some links to some playlists down below that can help you. I've also got some starter grilling guides for those of you maybe getting into the craft. I'll drop some links to our starter guides. They're no cost, just our way of saying thank you to you and trying to get something in your hand that may can help you this season as you try to get into grilling or to level up your grilling game. But I love y'all. I appreciate all of y'all so much. Until next time, grill boldly, serve proudly, and enjoy the process. I want to give a big shout out to our channel members. It's because of your generous support that we're able to keep creating and sharing these grilling resources. You're a huge part of this community, and we couldn't do it without you.